How to have fun, anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com. VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
In a world where insanity reigns supreme and safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, it's comforting to know an ancient, fat, long-haired, bearded reprobate has your mind in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. And despite every attempt by the SHR Media Network to revoke his shameless contract, we return to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, guess what? You're right, it's time to be in the saloon. I'm BZ, that's LONNIE Poindexter. It is a numerologist's dream today. It's 2/22/22, or February 22nd, the year of our Lord, 2022. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am still broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, always spell it with a K, but no longer from downtown Sacramento in the original SHR Media studios. Instead, my voice emanates from the South Sacramento area, but for about another month, because by the 29th of March, we got to be out, and out. However, be forewarned, what you're about to hear for the next 2 hours tonight consists of my opinion and my opinion only, nobody else's. The saloon is serving stiff drinks, facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, tradition, intent, and common sense. And remember, we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation, politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the saloon, where the speech is free, but the booze is not. In 2022, I am done with bipartisanship or compromise. Leftists have all declared we are on an open war footing against you, to which I reply, ditto in reverse. I love my country, but I abjure its leftist leaders and anybody who won't put America and her lawful citizens first, obey the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, uphold the rule of law, and embrace due process. Democrats, leftists, and the American media maggots say that makes me a white supremacist terrorist extremist. You know what? If loving my country makes me an extremist, then so be it. Tonight, in the saloon, we have, again, my co-host, LONNIE Poindexter. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, my brother. This is a fun time, as always, when I get invited to the saloon. And, folks, I'm just behind enemy lines with my dear brother here, and I'm watching his 30, if you get my drift, making sure that since we are behind enemy lines and nobody comes up and catches his flank. And I'm excited to be on the show today, this evening as always, and looking forward to the many topics that you're going to be covering, especially in light of some very recent events happening out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So I know you'll be dying to delve into that as well.
It's too bad folks can't see the littered desk of BZ, covered as it is with reams of paper, looking at my confuser on my left screen, which has 10, 20, 30 37 tabs open. Each tab represents a separate article or topic or video that I hope to play tonight, knowing full well I'll never damn get to them.
His media desk, it looks like the lab of a mad scientist. Just want to let you know, he's got stuff everywhere, all positioned, but they say from a messy desk, that's where a sign of greatness and genius,
or a messy mind, which is mine. I should tell everybody, I haven't said this. When I used to broadcast video and I used to co-stream on YouTube and Facebook, you could see in the background was the lava lamp. Mm-hmm. Well, the Bobcat is gone. Clyde the Bobcat now has a perch in my new Free State. He's looking down on the living room. There is a new Bobcat who will be actually on air while Clyde still stands on his perch. But I want to let everybody know that the lava lamp is still here. The lava lamp is still in the background. The lava lamp is, in fact, to my left, and Lonnie can see it from his chair. And then behind me, I've still got some red lights and blue lights, and I've also got a candle going, just like I used to have in the old studio. I think I've made up my head that when I go back to video, because I'm not going to go back to video until I get back to my Free State. And like I say, the drop-dead date here to leave is we got to be out of this place by March 29th. We'll probably... Well, not probably. We're going to get moved by that Friday, March 25th, and that's when they'll physically move, and then they'll arrive in our new Free State that Sunday because they said we're not going to be stupid again and not stay someplace overnight and have just a marathon driving session because that really wasn't very good for either one of us. I get it. Even though they are two young, strange, and wacky kind of guys. Tons of stories, tons of audio. It's Tuesday. When did I last speak to you over the phone? Was it Thursday night? Yeah. Might have been after the show because I had been speaking to Jack Alexander, and as Lonnie was can attest to, right after the show, what did I do? Well, that's right. I opened up some vodka. So when Lonnie happened to call, I was already a glass or two and a half into some potato water. And we spoke for, again, a good hour and a half, to which, like any time that I speak to Lonnie not on the air, I conclude, and with Mike Fitzpatrick, similarly, I conclude and say, you know what? That could have been an hour and a half or 2 hours of some of the best damn radio that anybody's ever heard. And it's true. It's absolutely true. I should have asked you this beforehand, Lonnie Poindexter. Is it okay to talk about your friend?
Which one?
That passed away?
Sure.
Okay. Lonnie wasn't here last Thursday because a friend of his passed unexpectedly. And like it or not, a lot of people that we all know have been passing recently. Yeah. We cannot necessarily say that we ascribe it to anything in particular, but I think a lot of people can read between the lines. And if nothing else, the past now 2 years, for the bulk of the population, I would posit, has been probably some of the most stressful years that folks can remember in their lives. And you can't tell me that the human brain and the way people think doesn't affect you physically. The mind and the body are as one. I discovered that a long time ago when dealing with other situations. And if you can somehow keep your mind positive, then the body has an amazing ability, I believe, to heal itself or take care of itself, or it will help you assist you better. But the past couple of years have been very stressful on any number of levels. And I think that has been a major contributor, amongst some of the other obvious things, to the fact that our lifespans in the United States have been going down, and there are studies that have been coming out.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
Recently to indicate precisely that. So Lonnie went down to Southern California to attend the funeral of a friend of his that died way too early. And we spoke about that, and if you might talk about that just a little bit, because this is your second, third friend that's passed recently?
Yeah, third.
Because your pastor friend passed away, the one that I would love to have met.
Yeah. I was looking to hook. I could see you two connecting. And his mother is really funny. Amazing guy and a tremendous story. Hence, we were bugging him to write a book. But his mother said to him, and to us, that he was born with a microphone in one hand and what was the other thing she said? And a telephone in the other.
So he was one communicating son of a gun.
He was. You two would have gotten along great. And I could just see it. And one of the things you wish you had done. But I didn't know that he was going to leave us this soon. And so it seems to be, at least for me, a season. But I think you speak to the broader part. I don't think it's just me. I'm in an age, I know we're not spring chickens, but you're in an age where, there's going to be people, how's the old saying go, that you get to a certain age and that you got less time on the front end than what you had on the back end. And you reach a point that those that you knew and loved, and there are more of them that are on the have passed on than those that are still with you. So most recently, he was like a big brother to us in the neighborhood growing up in Southern California. And
that's right. He was a local guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was a guy that you knew from the area where you grew up.
Yeah, and he was just a great guy. Grace, a great guy, phenomenal musician, arranger, writer, all that kind. There was nothing he couldn't do musically. And so those of us who had aspirations of pursuing music as a career, because, I wanted to be not so much famous, but I wanted to be a musician. I just didn't have the heart. My issue was you got to suffer for the art, right? And the suffering part I wasn't into. So
NSM dudes, not so much.
Not so much, my friend. And I liked eating. I liked having a roof over my head, but those who pursue it and have the skill set and the natural talents and have matured in those talents and so forth can go on and do great things. And I just knew that I was, but he was one of those. And so him leaving, finding out that he passed away, it was kind of a kick in the stomach. You weren't expecting it. We hadn't talked in a while, but old friends, sometimes you cycle and, I got to get hold of him. We need to talk. And then he was gone. And then in light of the situation, for lack of a better term, that we've been dealing with for the last 2 years, I've been chomping at the bit to want to ask friends that were closer to him in the latter days here, did he get poked? And because
you want to know.
You
can't help, I think, help but want to know.
Yeah. Did he get poked? Had another, actually as a relative here in the Sacramento area, and he had a massive stroke about 2 months ago. And we're all around the same age, and but he came through it completely unscathed. No paralysis.
Wow.
No slurred speech.
Wow.
In fact, the doctors, we know you had one because they're looking at the results. You know, they can do that stuff where they can look at your brain and all that. Yeah,
Right.
you had one, but we don't know why you had one, and we don't understand why you haven't had any extenuating circumstances from what you had. And
there was an acquaintance of mine
he got poked
from up in Alta, where I used to live, named Jack, and he was a trucker. He was in his 40s.
Mm-hmm.
He had a stroke. 40s, early 40s at the time. It took him a long while to recover.
Yeah.
And still, the last time that I'd seen him, they moved. At 43, 44, he was having a tough time just walking.
Yeah.
You could kind of understand him. It's a thief. It's a terrible, terrible thief. But that's an amazing thing, especially at your friend's age, which I would guess 50s, 60s, something like that.
69.
69.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The one that passed was 69.
Astounding.
Yeah. And it was, well, he's lived a good life. Well, they say that is it 60 or is it 50 is the new 30 or 40 or something? The saying goes. On one hand, we're living a lot longer than we have in the past, but on the other hand, there is this dynamic taking place where our lifespans are being shortened here in America. In a nation that has exemplary health care, well, as long as government's not in it, you have miraculous things can be done health-wise, but then at the same time you've got events taking place. And call us conspiracy theorists, but I got to tell you, man, the last 2 years with the great Pokeathon, which is what I like to call it, you're seeing an awful lot of people having issues and leaving. I lost what month are we in? I lost a close cousin that was like a big brother to me, and who just collapsed after he got out of the showers getting dressed to go to a business meeting. And he didn't make it to the meeting, and we go check and find out he collapsed and got poked.
You're finding people that are in their 20s dying, people that are in their 30s dying.
The youngsters, these athletes.
Kids, young kids,
in
their
great
teens.
Shape. Yes. And all children need to get for their own safety, and you're to protect your children. And I'm like, man, I tell folks, do not get your children poked. But, folks are doing it, and then you're hearing about some of the... And here's the deal. You don't see any media coverage about those incidents where you have, at least extensive media coverage, of young people having issues. If they don't die, having serious issues where they have to be nursed back to health. And then from... I work in conjunction with the frontline doctors, and those frontline doctors share stories in the conference calls and so forth. I'm on BZ. I got to tell you, it scares the bejeebers out of me what they talk about as the potential of what can happen for something that they're testing on the populace.
You can't convince me that it's not a test. I mean, this is a story for another day. I told everybody that I would do a special report on the coronavirus, and with me moving, all the other things, I want to do a special report on the Great Reset, which is what I'd like you to be here for. That's going to be after I move. Who knows when that's going to be, when I get the studio set up again. I'd like to have Mike Fitzpatrick in on perhaps coronavirus. I was going to do a 3-hour special on coronavirus. There is so much information that we cannot hear or know about, and that people have been eradicated on social media because it's, bad information. Well, once you start eradicating people who are simply transmitters, the go-betweens, the messengers of information, the first thing that tells me, it screams to me, is there's something valid there and you don't want me to know about it. And the biggest takeaway from the past 2 years is medicine has been absolutely politicized.
Yes.
The science, air quotes, has absolutely been politicized, which is sad because I would like to be, I can trust a couple of doctors that I have in very specific things that I deal with. One is melanoma and some of the other junk I got going on. But when you start to talk to me about vaccines, and I cannot remember the vaccine.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
To which this occurred, but there was a vaccine in which was being tested, and they had 72 deaths. That vaccine was killed. Mm-hmm. Now VAERS won't even, they're stopping recording of many of those. That's purposeful. And then limiting the number of people that can access that information in the first place.
Yes.
What else can you conclude then? And to which I say there's a massive difference between with and of, that for whatever reason a lot of people don't seem to grok that concept. And there was in the chat room, he's not here anymore. I had a last message from him in August last year. And I can say his name now because he is passed. He used to be Sergeant Booker in chat, and his name was Roger Dillon. And he was a sergeant that had retired from my department sometime after me. And he came into the studio a couple of times. As a matter of fact, the time that he came into the studio, you were here with me on the air. Yeah. And I'm guessing you remember him, big, tall, thin guy that was talking to Sackhead Sean. Yeah. And they were having their conversation over there, and we were having our conversation over here. That was Sergeant Booker. Yeah. That was Roger Dillon. Mm-hmm. He passed away. Don't know specifically. I heard, again, air quotes, it was COVID. But the other thing that I didn't go to his funeral. I've been to enough. I almost said the F word. I've been to enough funerals. I don't want to go to any more. I've been to 5 cop funerals. That's enough. I don't even want to attend mine. Mm-hmm. I really don't. Mm-hmm. And but you're curious, like your friend. Mm-hmm. Did you get the vaccine?
Yeah.
I'll never know, probably, because how do you ask that? I don't know.
You want to,
but I'm curious.
But you can't because it stirs up such emotions. And it's one thing. In the case of my cousin that passed almost 6 months ago, I'm chomping at the bit to ask, but I know I can't because I know the circle of family members around him, they all got poked.
So they're of a particular mindset.
Exactly. And I have learned that you cannot even get them to even pause and think about the possibility that could be a connection. And it's unfortunate, but they've done a great job of indoctrinating the populace media. And here's something I wanted to mention to you right along this topic. I'm fairly prolific in social media on the usual platforms. I received this notice from Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't pull any punches. I'm not profane or anything like that, but I just lay it out there what it is, in my opinion. Lonnie Poindexter, account restricted. Your post will be moved lower in news feed for at least 90 days.
Oh, okay.
90 days. That's a new one, because usually they'd nail me and for the day or a few days or something like that. I think the most was about a month. For 3 months. And so I finally made I had made the decision to do this prior, but now it's time for me to move and put the majority of my efforts into the emerging social media platforms that happen to share our particular values. In other words, they're not prohibiting free thought, because this is where we're at. And it was because, primarily I was speaking up about the great poke.
It's funny you should mention that, because I was suspended from Twitter for the past 15 days. Mm-hmm. I'm off Twitter jail this morning at about 12:30. And then I'm also restricted on Facebook, and I'm looking at it right now. It says, Biff Zeppi, account restricted. Your posts will be moved lower in feed for 3 days. Well, that's been going on for 30 days.
30 days.
So it said your post will be moved lower in feed for 3 days, and then I can see why. One of them is because I quoted Joseph Goebbels regarding propaganda. Apparently that cut a little too close to home for those shit sticks. And then let's see if I can get this. No, it won't even let me see the whole post. Mm-hmm. It says, about your post. No one else can see your post. Your post didn't follow community standards. No one else can see this post. If someone was a good attorney, what do I have? I got about 4 more minutes before the bottom of the hour break. When I was in law enforcement and a supervisor of individuals, we would work on what was called progressive discipline. And progressive discipline, the goal is to start small and then work up progressively if that behavior continues. Right. Because the goal of progressive discipline is to ensure that the behavior is changed, modified, or stops. If I were an attorney, to me that would indicate a wonderful means of suing any social media platform that attempted to act as a publisher, because in my opinion, you're acting as a publisher and not simply a platform if you're telling people what's true and what isn't true, and you're allowing some things to go out and some things not to go out, politically modified. But what it suggests to me, have you ever had, and no one has, has anyone ever had any specific rule that Facebook, Twitter, or any of the social media giants will tell you that you violated with regard to that post to which it applies?
Right.
All they say is this big umbrella-like group, you didn't follow our community standards, and they will not tell you specifically what it is that your post that was made violated.
Right.
And that is purposely done. Because if you're acting punitively to someone, the goal should be to change or modify behavior. And if they won't tell you what it is that you've done specifically, then it's not about modifying or changing or stopping a behavior. It's about being punitive.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. And I get that from progressive discipline. So they don't care about the fact that you violated X, Y, or Z. It's simply about removing your ability to communicate in social media, to which many people will reply, well, it's a private organization, and you don't have a right to do that. Okay, if they're a platform but not a publisher. To me, that is a glaring problem, a glaring error.
And the other thing, and you hit the nail on the head, BZ, the other thing is I've been saying for the longest that they need to be sued for antitrust. And I got some, conservative friends. Well, Lonnie, you could go to other platforms. It's not like they. I said no. I said think about it. I says the telephone companies, AT&T, and so forth. When the Big Bell company were broken up into several companies because they had dominated the market, and they were considered the same way that was at Standard Oil. Back when they were confronted about their practices and dominating and no competition because they would literally dominate the market, and they controlled oil and the distribution of it to the populace. And I said, well, Facebook's the predominant platform. Any platforms that emerge get stepped on.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
And don't even get a chance to sprout and grow wings. Parler's a perfect example.
Parler was a perfect example, yes.
I said, so they're all in cahoots together. I said, the lock, stock, and barrel of them should be sued. I said, commerce is taking place in social media platforms.
And people who are flattened on these platforms, it's not just, well, I can't talk to my cousin June in Detroit.
Right.
No, a lot of people have monetized their platforms and their streaming abilities, et cetera. And when you get chopped, that also, whatever monetization you've managed to acquire, that is also chopped.
It'd be no different than going back to the telephone days. If you look to make a phone call and they won't let you make a phone call because they don't like you as an individual because your political views or maybe what you're saying in that phone call. Oh, it's not the same. I said, yeah, it is the same. Commerce is taking place. Social media has changed the fabric of commerce and how commerce takes place.
And it's rewired people's brains.
Yes. I said, so they certainly should be attacked.
And they've done their very level best to ensure that they make it as addictive as possible.
Yeah.
So you can't say they're uninvolved in that regard. Folks, I'm BZ. That's Lonnie Poindexter. We're going to take a break and come right back. And then oddly enough, I have some great happy stories. I have tons of audio cuts. And I have a story to relate to Lonnie Poindexter that I hope perhaps will light him up 210 over 190 a little bit later tonight. He doesn't know it. Don't go anywhere.
Media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right. We're back. So please join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. you can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
Unleashed Jeremy Hansen, the most explosive pro-American podcast on the planet. Pro-MAGA, pro-Trump, pro-conservative. Come join the resistance. Fight for what really matters in America. 5 p.m. Central on UJHLive.com, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Pandora, or MAGABook.com. Come join the resistance and fight for America. Unleashed Jeremy Hansen.
Do you value yourself, your family, your friends? Want to know more about how to survive, thrive, and stay alive in these dynamic times? Listen to Around the Campfire with Kate, Thursday nights and Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, only on PSN TV. That's Around the Campfire with Kate. News that nobody in the MSM wants to report. Remember, train hard, train smart to survive, thrive, and stay alive.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. Thanks for being here tonight. I greatly appreciate it. I'm BZ. That's Lonnie Poindexter over there.
Hey.
You can listen to the show live and jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room by going to shrmedia.com. Now, if you're on a phone or your tablet, what you do is you go down to the bottom of the screen and you hit View Web Version. From there, you click on, when you get to the page on the web, you click on Listen Live, Chat at the top, or On Air at the top right. Create a name, don't create a name, make it yourself, make it somebody else. Have fun, chat away. I used to say you can follow me on Twitter at BZEP. You'll be able to do that after 12:30 tomorrow morning. And, hey, if you're listening on Spreaker, which is audio only, then, hey, share me out on Spreaker. And you can share me on This Is Where I'm Found. I'm on Spotify. I'm on iHeart. I'm on Apple Podcasts. I'm on Podcast Addict. I'm on Google Podcasts. I'm on some crazy thing called Deezer and something called CastBox. Never once been there myself. Don't know how I got there, but by God, there I am. And also, I have a new number. And if you are interested in calling in, the new number is similar to the old boss, same as the old boss, but a little different. The new number is 575. I put it in chat, which you can go to at shrmedia.com. The new number is 575-208-4792. 575-208-4792. 575-208-4792. And you can go there, quick click a bunny and do that right now. Of all the things that are out here tonight to talk about, just when you thought there wasn't enough, or just when you thought that it was okay to kind of expand out of the fetal position underneath your desk because of Wuhan 19, no, not anymore. But wait, there's more. You expected this to come. Well, here's a minute and a half, I'm guessing, it's about a minute and a half, of We're All Gonna Die Once More. Okay, let's turn on the volume and let's try that once more. Here is these people. Again, I need a producer.
Medical experts around the world are now keeping a close eye on a new subvariant of Omicron. The subvariant is potentially more contagious, sparking concerns that it could lead to another surge in cases. Trevor Alt has more on that.
Okay, if I had a producer, you would have heard a new surge in cases. Yeah, but I don't have a producer.
Hi, Trevor.
Well, Diane, we're talking about the new BA2 subvariant, which the World Health Organization has specifically asked countries to monitor in case it spreads even more rapidly than the original Omicron, which we already know is incredibly contagious. Now, the CDC estimates right now the BA2 makes up for about 3 to 4% of cases across the country, but that number could very well climb even higher today as the CDC usually updates its estimates on Tuesdays. It could be a much higher portion of the cases across the country, though the director, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, has pointed out this subvariant's been in the U.S. for several weeks now. If this was a massive difference in transmissibility, it would have already taken over, but it still could certainly be more transmissible. The estimates range from 30% up to 60%. We don't know for sure, but it could be enough to cause another rise in cases as they've been largely declining all over the country. So much so, this decline has led almost every state to either scale back their restrictions or announce plans to do that. 49 states have announced plans to loosen their mask requirements. Dr. Fauci says that action is still a little bit risky, but even this week, early this week, the CDC is expected to update its mask recommendations too.
Isn't that funny? Dr. Fauci recommends masking, and you can mask, you can get 2 more masks. I'm Dr. Fauci. Then you're going to need 3 more masks and an N95. And then I suspect that you're going to need a respirator. Because if the fire department requires one to go into smoke, that's what I recommend for you. Dr. Fauci, I require him.
Isn't it funny, Lonnie Poindexter, how just when we're coming out of COVID and winter is waning, winter's going away.
How to have fun, anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com. VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
We have to find something that's going to make you refetalize under your desk. Call me wacky, call me lazy, don't call me late for dinner, but to me, I just don't believe in coinky-dink anymore. I have been entirely disabused of that.
Yeah, it's... he makes my skin crawl. Is the best way I can put it.
He is the highest paid U.S. federal government employee.
Mm-hmm.
He makes $420-something thousand per year and has been making that money. He's been making bank on your taxpayer dollars ever since he's been involved in the federal government for now decades.
It's amazing.
It's absolutely astounding.
And I'm trying to think of a word. I'm trying to be a good little Christian boy without saying what I'm thinking about. Let me just say, I'll put it like this.
Okay.
He's smarmy, arrogant.
That's a good word. Oily.
Yeah, there you go. Oily's even better. And if you have the faintest ability to discern things, you can look at him as his body language. When Trump was in office, I used to watch him as he stood next to Trump, and you could see that. Be so bold as to say, because this is your show, and you can say stuff on your show. You could see that he already knew that Trump's days were numbered because of what they were doing in terms of cooking the books on the election. I believe he knew. And when it went all the way up to him, he knew. Somebody pulled him and says, look, you just sit tight. We'll take care of Trump.
You'll be fine. And we'll take care of you, too.
Exactly. And then here we have, what I'm excited about is even folks who lean left are beginning to see, and in particular the ones who have the darker paint job like me, are beginning to see something's not quite right in Brooklyn with him. And I guess my question to you, BZ, is when is he going to be completely exposed? And if he is completely exposed, will he be arrested? Because, I mean, I
think it will only happen if a massive bank of others fall into that category as well, unless and until everyone else is outed as being the true conspiracists here, then you can pretty much count on nothing happening to him. Now, an interesting point that people don't realize is that he has a wife. He's married. Her name is Christine Grady. She's an American nurse. She's also what is called a bioethicist. Hold that thought for a second. She serves as the department head of bioethics in the same place he works, which is the National Institute of Health at the Clinical Center. So she is a bioethicist, and yet Fauci is the individual who, through various channels, managed to shift money from the United States to Wuhan, China, because it became first wrong, hello, bioethics, then illegal to continue with gain-of-function research in the United States. So because he had a stake in that, essentially the weaponization of fill-in-the-blank for whatever virus or bacteria was the virus du jour that they were with which they wished to experiment, all that got moved over to China so he could continue with that, and I didn't hear one peep from any bioethicist in terms of gain-of-function research. Now, gain-of-function doesn't have anything to do with the ability of the virus to be destroyed. The gain of function, the function to be that people aspire to make this bacteria more effective, is in terms of killing. That's the gain that they wish. They wish the virus to be more effective at killing, more effective at dissemination. And yet, as far as I hear, not a peep from his wife, Christine Grady. Imagine that.
Imagine that. And I don't imagine anyone. I'm an optimist by nature, but these chuckleheads are interwoven and connected.
Everything.
All the way up to the top.
Everything.
And so the way the Clintons have Teflon, this individual appears to have Teflon as well.
Let me provide another indicator that is a wonderful collage of things just like that. In other words, I don't believe in coincidence, and this is another thing about a minute and a half or so that to me bespeaks tons about the quinky-dink of all the things that are going on anymore.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities, Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about the trouble and trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false news
has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish the same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Really?
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
To what?
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Really?
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Because they didn't all get the same talking points, comma, did they?
Hello. You know, I was looking for that information last week for a show that I was on, and I was trying to bring that up. And you have everything. I tell you, I should have just called you and said, BZ, send it over to me. I know you got it somewhere. But, yeah.
I keep everything.
The script, it's all scripted.
Well, number one, this isn't a democracy. Hello. This is a republic. This is a constitutionally federated republic. I had Professor Michael Jones, a constitutional scholar, on for many hours to talk about that. And I can bring those up and reference them to anybody who wants to listen to it. It's not a democracy.
Going all the way back to Benjamin Franklin and his famous quote to that area, if you can keep it.
Yes, it is a republic if
you can keep it.
If we can keep it. And Chicago is a city if we can keep it.
The Bloviating Zeppelins HeyJackass.com Chicago Death Toll Update. Courtesy of Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
And we get that from HeyJackass.com. HeyJackass.com, illustrating Chicago values. Now, February to date in the lovely city of Chicago. Mayored by the wondrous Lori Lightfoot. February to date, shot and killed 35, shot and wounded 103, total shot 138, total homicides 35. The week in progress, February 20th to February 26th, shot and killed 5, shot and wounded 21, total shot 26, total homicides 5. Year to date, just 2022 now, shot and killed 81, shot and wounded 285, total shot 366, total homicides 86. Now, a person is shot in the sumptuous and lovely city of Chicago every 3 minutes and 29 seconds. And a person is murdered every 14 minutes and 51 seconds in the lovely city of Chicago, courtesy of Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
The Bloviating Zeppelins HeyJackass.com.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Chicago Death Toll Update. Courtesy of Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
And let's not forget...
This dude is coming at me.
Let's do the HRC.
I just smile and let him be. The dude brought his own rope. He put the bullet in the gun, so I'm just gonna shimmy. Hillary shimmy.
Okay.
HRC. Shimmy, 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 shimmy.
Okay.
Folks, you can all sing along if you want.
He just keeps on shouting wrong.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
No, I'm not.
Murders are up.
I will get my Jim Halpert on. He is a flightless bird. I think I'll never say another word. I'll just be singing this song. Hillary shimmy.
Okay.
Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. Shimmy, 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 shimmy.
Okay.
Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. Shimmy, 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 shimmy.
Okay.
Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. HRC. Shimmy, 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 shimmy.
Okay.
Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. HRC. Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. Hillary shimmy.
Okay.
Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. HRC. Shimmy, 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 shimmy.
Okay.
Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. HRC. Shimmy, 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 shimmy.
Okay.
Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. Shimmy, 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 shimmy.
Okay.
Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. Shimmy, 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 shimmy.
You can't say that we're not musically oriented here in the Saloon. You can't say this.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
Now that little ditty will be in my head for the next 48 hours.
Darn. Hey, I wanted to start with happy stories and good times because I've got so many. And folks, if you want to find that, it's called, it was on, where'd I get this? YouTube. It's called the Hillary Shimmy Song. So if you want to rock out, then find the Hillary Shimmy Song on one of your favorite video places. And yeah, I'm going to do a lot of this because there is a lot of this to do right now.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
This is a story from Red State. The backlash that that backlash against Democrats everyone predicted has arrived. From the Green New Deal to the Defund the Police movement, Democrat radicalism is becoming a major liability going into the midterms per Axios. The hard-left politics of Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the so-called squad, once a dominant theme for vast numbers of elected Democrats, is backfiring big time on the party in power. Top Democrats tell us why it matters. The push to defund the police, rename schools, and tear down statues has created a significant obstacle to Democrats keeping control of the House, the Senate, and the party's overall image. Also from redstate.com. This is a very happy story, Lonnie Poindexter. The headline goes like this. Internal DCCC D-Cubed poll predicts a 2022 bloodbath, and the people they will blame have already been identified. A Democrat Congressional Campaign Committee, D-Cubed, internal poll of voters in competitive or swing congressional districts was leaked earlier, and Politico got the heads up, and the online outlet SFGate got the slide decks. The top line from the presentation was gruesome for a party that was already sure that November 2022 had the potential to be a bloodbath. I consider that good news. Mm-hmm. Here's a story you won't hear anything else. And to me, this typifies irony and what I term schadenfreude, because I guarantee you haven't heard this. It's from the state of Washington. And when I say these first two words, everybody's going to go, what? But this is true. This is from wethegovernment.com about the state of Washington and its Governor Inslee. Okay, the first two words in this article are Nigerian fraud ring helps Washington state lead nation in unemployment stats. And it's like, what? Okay, roll with me on this. Washington state prides itself as a trendsetter in many areas. Leading the nation in unemployment claims was not the indicator Washington state wanted to win. However, when formal nationwide unemployment numbers were recently released, Washington state led the nation with unemployment numbers, according to the U.S. Department of Labor and the Bureau of Labor Statistics, of 30.8%. This rate of unemployment is unprecedented in modern state history. However, those numbers may not be accurate, thanks to a Nigerian-linked fraud racket which managed to steal millions, apparently hundreds of millions of dollars, from the Washington State Employment Security Department. Imagine that, as reported in the New York Times. And even so, I bet you still haven't heard about that. And other national news sources. Washington State's Employment Security Department had to stop issuing unemployment checks for several days due to the unprecedented volume of fraudulent requests, which were in fact processed and paid by the state. As far as I'm concerned, Jay Inslee, welcome to reality. That's a great time. This is an audio cut that I sense, Lonnie, you've probably heard before. And at the end, maybe I'll summarize it, what it is that you're hearing, but it was glorious. This is a parent at a school board meeting who causes a board member to quit and storm off because this parent, though the board member is demanding that kids at the school district wear masks, apparently this board member wasn't smart enough to not put photos of herself on social media going maskless in public and in closed spaces. Take it away.
With a crowd of people.
That's it.
With no mask on. This is my time and I don't interrupt you. Here's another picture with you with a no mask on.
I'm sorry, Ms. Vaught, you are done. If you are going to sit there and disparage a member of our school board, then you can sit down.
She turned
if
off
you
her
have something
mic.
effective
You
to
can't
say,
hear.
I have facts and truth on my side.
I am not going to sit here.
This isn't about you anymore. It's about
Can we have a police officer, please?
Really?
Yes.
Scared because of
No, I'm not scared. I don't care. I would like you to either talk about something. You can talk about something that concerns our school board. Is there something about our students you would like to talk about? Then talk about our students.
You're taking up my time.
Can you please ask Ms. Vaught to leave? Thank you.
Okay, now what you can't see is there's a law enforcement officer who'd walked up with a mask next to her, but it continues. But then this parent receives a little bit of support from someplace entirely unanticipated.
What, for speaking the truth?
Let's let the rest of us talk.
Can I finish?
No.
So you are.
If you would like to finish about students, but if your idea is to stand there...
Huh?
She should be able to say her piece. I've had to listen to people come and criticize me.
People came here and criticized.
Okay, that's a fellow school board member weighing in and apparently supporting this parent who was at the microphone that was subsequently cut off, and a cop is standing next to her.
Criticized you last year?
Absolutely, and I couldn't do anything about it. And
As well as
publicly,
me.
I was humiliated.
So people came here and they talked about your mask to your face. They showed pictures of your family. They showed pictures of your.
Yeah, they did worse.
That doesn't make it right.
No, it
That
doesn't.
doesn't make it right, Jamie.
You're right, but I had to say.
That's my family. That is all. Then fine.
What do you think about our family?
I am not.
Our family is being suffocated to death.
I'm done.
Time is up.
She leaves or I leave.
Time is up. Time is up.
I'm done.
You can't deal with the truth. You don't need to be a school board member.
It's not the truth, but that's not the issue.
You can have my seat. We're coming for them. All of them.
I love it.
And so what you can't see, because I don't have video, is this chick walks off. The school board member walks off of the board itself. And the other thing is, on this video, she says, "You're taking pictures of my family and throwing..." Bitch, comma, this shit is the same stuff you put on social media, because she wouldn't have found it unless you put it on there. And the screen on this video is small enough, nobody on this video can see her family on this teeny-weeny phone screen.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Green. That's why that's a happy story.
You know, I have some experience in dealing with school boards in a previous life, having to present to them. And I'm smiling because that's exactly how that kind of thing plays out, because there is a elitism and arrogancy among school board members, at least in the state of California.
Oh, God. And Virginia.
They don't like any kind of heat being put on them. And they rule the roost in those school board meetings. And you, as a parent or a member of the community coming in, they will roust you right out of there before you get a chance to put the heat on them about something that they're not doing. And so I commend that parent for confronting this individual. Man, you know, this is...
She missed a golden opportunity.
Yeah, here's a deal.
We got about 30 seconds.
Okay, I'll make it quick. We, as common sense populace in this nation, it's our own fault when we let these chuckleheads get in these positions and wield power the way they do. And so until we replace them all or shut down the education systems, we'll be dealing with this going forward.
But that's the deal. The deal is, parents, normal people, get in there and start running for your school boards.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It is he that is me, bringing perspective from across the sea. Join me, Jack Alexander, 4 days a week for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the news and issues affecting life and liberty here in the USA. I'll show you what the mainstream media refuses to. Politics, border security, defense, healthcare, travel, nothing is off limits. Catch the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast each Monday to Thursday on Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere good podcasts can be found. Also, check out the website, www.jackalexanderexperiment.com.
Come listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, for the best in late-night conservatarian wireless talk radio at SHRmedia.com. Raised as a free-range child with dirt and freedom, BZ is broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room at SHRmedia.com. Now, with 18% more umbrage and 20% more bulbosity than previous shows, and with delicious Liberty additives. Remember, BZ realizes that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the Unpleasant Blind Guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense League radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for air times. It's the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
On EBL Radio.
There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And I'm back. The first hour is done. I'm BZ. That's Lonnie Poindexter over there. And you're in the Berserk Bobcat Saloon. If you want to get into the sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent, and plush, I forgot plush, chat room, you can do that by going to shrmedia.com, shrmedia.com. If you're looking at it on your tablet or your phone, go down all the way to the bottom and touch the little area that says View Web Version. That'll take you over to the full web version at shrmedia.com, and then touch the little tab at the very top says Listen Live and Chat. You'll be in the chat room. And everybody go into the chat room. And if you want to call for whatever crazy reason, the new number is 575-208-4792, 575-208-4792. 575-208-4792. And with that, I want to continue on with...
It's time for happy stories and good times.
Because I got a ton of them. Now, remember when everybody said, hey, NBC, you might not want to get involved with the Olympics this year, but of course they thought they were going to kill a fat hog. And because they're not entirely adverse to filleting the Chinese communists, there's a... What? What are you talking about? Anyway, there's a headline right here that said NBC's Beijing Olympic ratings called a disaster for the network. And someone from NBC said, I'm stunned. There is karma in the world. A sobbing Russian figure skater berated by one of her coaches for poor routine, grim-looking cooling towers in the background of acrobatic snowboard jumps, diplomatic boycotts, half-empty stands, announcers covering the games from Connecticut. It all played out in a host country engaged in human rights atrocities that was also the original site of the global pandemic. For NBC, it wasn't exactly glory in China. To which I say, hello, welcome to Schadenfreude. Here's another one from Texas Monthly. Great headline. Latinas are pushing a political revolution in South Texas. To the right. Monica de la Cruz, Mayra Flores, and Adrienne Pena Garza, all from Hidalgo County, hope to flip congressional seats across the region. Adrienne Pena Garza remembers the insults at least as vividly as her triumphs. In 2018, Pena succeeded in her campaign to lead the Hidalgo County Republican Party based in McAllen, becoming the first Hispanic woman to sit as the chairwoman. As someone proud to call herself Raza, a word Mexicans use to describe themselves as a race, a woman of color and a Latina, the win meant something special to Pena. It wasn't just for her, but for South Texas, who looked like her. That feeling of warm pride, however, soon clashed with the caustic burn of scorn when she began leading meetings at the HCRP office. Two women swung a sledgehammer outside, smashing open a coconut. The symbolism wasn't subtle. With the shell cracked, Pena could see the brown on the outside and the white on the inside. And from that, she decided, you know what? We are definitely going to get into politics, and we are definitely going to begin leading to the right. Here's another happy story. Any comment on that, Lonnie, by the way?
I just saying that, or thinking that, lefties think they've got the Latino community sewed up, but I think there's going to be a lot of surprises. I think the fact that, number one, they come from a community largely intact family units.
Yes.
They come from a culture, at least those of them that have migrated over from south of the border, whether it was 100 years ago or recently, there's a spirit of independence and entrepreneurship there, and something doesn't smell right with how they see things going in our nation. I can't wait to see how that blows up in the lefties in their
The other thing that I've announced here a number of times is that had the election been given about a month ago, it would have been on the Hispanic side, it would have been 50% Biden, 50% Trump, which a lot of people seem to forget, conveniently enough. And the other thing is that American blacks and Hispanics also under Trump in 2019, 2018 had the lowest unemployment in 50 years. That was under Trump. You and I previously have specifically addressed the issue in terms of why, for the GOP, excellent question, did it take Trump to pose the question of, why don't you come?
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
Into this tent. There's room enough for everybody in here. And the phrase he used was, what have you got to lose?
What the hell do you have to lose?
What? Why did it take a Trump that so many rhinos despised to make a clear and open invitation? Come one, come all. Your melanin count doesn't mean crap. If you're a conservative, come on in.
Yes, and I was there to witness that in our nation's capital. But if you watched and listened to the media, it's as if it never happened.
I don't know. That should have been the clarion call for the GOP for decades. If for no other reason than historically speaking, which tells me, sadly, too many of the Republicans in the GOP, they don't know their history of their own party.
They don't. Or they lean so far left within the party, otherwise called rhinos, and I have some other choice names for them as well. They don't know their history. And so, here's the deal. There are those of us like you and I that have our little bully pulpits that stand up and speak truth. And when you are able to reach one, and like the esteemed senator and state senator and then U.S. congressman from Louisiana who switched parties because someone like us spoke with him and taught him true history. His name is Elbert Guillory.
Oh, another dude that I would love to have on the show. He had, I remember, and Lonnie, correct me if I'm wrong, the reason I remember him is he had a campaign ad 2-3 years ago that was just fabulous, stating essentially that.
Yeah. He made the party switch and then ran for Senate. He didn't win the senatorial, because the left went after him after he did that, but he was red-pilled, just like, what's his name? Is it Terrell?
Oh, Leo Terrell?
Leo Terrell.
Somewhere, when I get to my new free state, I have a hat that I got signed by Leo Terrell, where it says Leo 2.0 on it. And it was so weird because he used to be the greatest, used to conduct the largest, potentially the loudest arguments against Sean Hannity on his show for years, and then magically, mystically made a complete 180. And I would love to talk to him about what was the predicating event or a series of indices that made you decide, I've had enough of this and I'm moving over here. I would love to have him regale that story.
Intelligent thinking, critical thinking people, eventually the truth will completely open their eyes.
Was he not a civil rights attorney?
Yes.
Okay. And just another in a continuing series. Here's another story, another happy story. This is from Fox News. AOC squad under fire as Dems reject their deeply problematic agenda. The policies trumpeted by AOC and the squad are deeply problematic for Democrats running in competitive districts. That's a happy story. Here's one that's from CNN Politics, from The Point, written by Chris Cillizza. Here's the terrible reality. Trump's election lie is on the march. And this is why it's a happy story. I'll be the first one to say I believe the 2020 election was rigged. It was a ripoff. Now, call me what you will, folks. Quite frankly, don't give a shit. But I am completely convinced that on the late night thereof, the fix was in. When you have election areas, when you have polls previously with windows so people could look in that were taped off so that you couldn't see, or various advisors were forbidden from looking at the counting, the fix was in. Nobody on the Republican side would be able to have gotten away with a fraction of that, and it would have been a major scandal for weeks. So CNN writes, Chris Cillizza, in the immediate aftermath of the January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol, CNN conducted a poll. Among the questions it asked was this one. In general, how confident are you that elections in America today reflect the will of the people? Now, at the time, 6 in 10, 59% of people said they were either very or somewhat confident that elections reflect the will of the people. CNN, brand new national poll, asked that question again and got a very different result. Now, just 44% of Americans express confidence in the idea of free and fair elections, while 56% say they have little or no confidence in our elections. That's enough with me reading that article. Now, Lonnie Poindexter, sir, what do you think could have occurred in the interim between January 6, 2021 and now? Besides everything.
Yeah, everything. That's the word to use. I remember the election. I went to vote, and I took my ballot down to it was downtown D.C., and I went to the Martin Luther King Library. It's a beautiful library. They remodeling it, and I'm expecting to see security personnel and election people and so forth, and I had my ballot and everything, and it was all filled out. And I'm looking around, and I said, well, where do you go to turn your ballots in? And I said, so I'll just go around the corner and right there. So I go around the corner, and this is what I see. There's nobody out there. There's no security personnel. There's no election people. Nothing that I expected to see. There's a great big metal box on wheels with a slot in it.
Great, so it could be wheeled away quickly.
And I'm looking up going, I need to take a picture of this. And so I go, I just slid it in there, and I'm going, I had no confidence whatsoever that whatever was in that box was going to get to wherever it needed to get to. And like you said, it was on wheels, so it could just disappear. Somebody pull up with a pickup truck, and a couple strong guys pick the thing up, throw it in the back of the truck.
Yeah, what if somebody decided, that box would look really good in my living room tonight?
I'll never forget that. About the size of a refrigerator.
Yeah, you could lift it with two guys probably, because it was full of air. It was full of sailboat fuel and maybe some ballots.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I said, okay, what if you had some disgruntled individual, they could have dumped something into, because, it's like a mail slot. And I'm sitting there going, I said, this is no way. I walked away like this. I remember calling my man, what? I said, yeah, downtown D.C., and I'm expecting to walk in the library and secure. They do that for everything else. But no, it's around the corner. It wasn't even in the building.
It's stuff like that makes you go, huh?
Yeah, exactly. But that's Washington, D.C.
But it's Beezy's logical extension axiom, which is something like that. Like this, what would happen if the reverse were true,
mm-hmm.
and that was an area in a largely GOP district that was unsecured?
Mm-hmm.
Again, you would hear about that for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Sure.
Here's another happy story. You're going to have to figure this out on your own, folks, as to why it's a happy story. At least 6 stabbed in New York City subway system after mayor announces a new safety plan. New York City Mayor Eric Adams vowed Friday to create a clean, orderly, and safe environment for paying subway passengers and transit workers. Let me say this. I'll let you draw your own conclusions, folks. 6 stabbed in New York City subway system. Wait a minute. Are you saying that you don't need a gun to kill people? I don't know. You could draw your own conclusions. Here's another story. 1 dead and 5 wounded in Portland shooting during protest in a park. Authorities describe confrontation in Normandale Park between homeowner and participants in police violence protest. So 1 dead, 5 wounded because of a shooting. In Portland, the city of love, where everywhere I've been to Portland, you can find a sign about every block or two that says something similar to "Keep Portland Weird."
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
So they love their weirdness. That was where Chaz Chop resided for a while, if you remember. That was the Summer of Love, also, if you remember, according to the then governor and the then mayor of Portland as well. And now they seem to be shooting themselves up. Isn't that amazing? Imagine that. What happened in Portland? Oh, that's right. They also defunded the police. Here's another story. Proterra bus fire prompts California agency, California always spelled it with a K, to consider shelving electric bus fleet. Electric buses are melting in the sun. They are too expensive to fix, transit officials say. Huh. An electric bus manufactured by Proterra caught fire in a Southern California city that is now considering taking the electric buses off the road, according to government records. The Foothill Transit Agency, which serves the valleys surrounding Los Angeles, will decide on Friday whether costly Proterra buses purchased in the last decade are still operable. Problems cited by the agency include not only the bus that caught fire in what's described as a thermal event, but also buses that melt in the California heat and have transmission failures. Rolando Cordero, the agency's director of maintenance and vehicle technology, says the problems with the buses are exacerbated by Proterra's inability to help with repairs. And so you didn't look at that or consider that when you started buying the buses? Huh? Imagine that. Here's another one. I spoke about this last week, but I need to repeat it again here. Lonnie Poindexter, what do you think of the future of CNN? Oh, okay, that's enough for me right there.
Future of CNN. Oh, boy. Where do I start with that? I don't think CNN has a future. I predict that because they have the new ownership that's poised, they need to get back to reporting news. I think he says something to that effect. And I foresee maybe even a name change because they have such a
there's such a terrible negative cachet on CNN.
Yeah,
I can see what you're saying. Yes,
yeah. And I foresee the individuals that are sitting in the seats, the talking heads. There'll be a mass exodus of them because they have no credibility. I mean, even amongst folks on the left, they don't watch CNN.
No, they're carried in airports. The last I heard is that absent a few exceptions, they're running 300 or 400,000 numbers. Their major folks are gone. Chris Cuomo was a major dude. Mm-hmm. Now intertwined with Zucker and all the other crap that's going on over at CNN.
Well, you have social media pundits, somebody with a microphone and a camera sitting in there, either in the basement or in their living room, for that matter, that have more followers than CNN.
Oh, yeah. And I think one of the major reasons that Joe Rogan, that the leftists are so absolutely incensed over Joe Rogan, is that they realize that his pull is more than CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, and probably a number of the alphabet American media maggots all collected together on one of their better days. Yes. He's pulling more numbers than they are. Yes. And he's just as in their mind, a stupid MMA palooka who doesn't know crap, who needed to be eliminated on Spotify, but wasn't because he pulls in ass-kicking numbers and is making bank for Spotify.
Yeah, Spotify. The management of Spotify said, nah, we're not touching that golden goose.
Yeah.
We don't care what he says.
No, exactly. And this is part and parcel of the happy story that I was talking about. I frequently want to say that I find a great deal of my great stories, I have to go outside the U.S. and go into the UK. So here's a story from the Daily Mail, UK, that asks in this headline, is this the end of CNN's left-wing bias? Okay, I find that interesting in the crafting even of that article, that first sentence from the Daily Mail. Is this the end of CNN's left-wing bias? To me, that says, hey, they're acknowledging that CNN has left-wing bias. Billionaire Trump donor, who is the largest shareholder of the network's new owner, Discovery, wants to restore it to impartiality. And this is what was glorious, because remember how CNN said, oh, we're letting Jeff Zucker go because of some kind of a relationship that he had. He's an adult, she's an adult. He's not married, she's not married, and they had an affair of some sort. And that's why we're removing Jeff Zucker right now, and that's why he resigned.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, except that this new billionaire Trump donor insisted on Jeff Zucker's departure after his affair was exposed. John Malone is chairman of Liberty Media, Discovery's largest shareholder. He previously donated $250,000 to Trump's inauguration and told of wanting to restore CNN to impartial journalism after years of left-wing bias. After CNN chief Jeff Zucker's relationship with colleague Alison Gollust was revealed, Malone reportedly made it clear policies must be followed. And Zucker was kicked off of CNN, which tells me that big things are about to happen at CNN. And that's very interesting, Lonnie Poindexter. I hadn't thought about the fact that what happens if they entirely rebrand? That might be one of the best things that they could do.
Yeah, because their value is not their brand. Their value is their infrastructure. So with the new owners buying into existing infrastructure, you just rebrand and launch it as something else with new faces and what have you, and you're rocking and rolling. They're not going to be able to resurrect that brand and make it what it maybe once was. I've always thought they lean left, but they just nothing like they do today.
Well, and the other thing is that most of those people that were hosts, current or former hosts, they're falling one by one. Rachel Maddow on MSNBC has fallen to the wayside.
Yeah.
And nobody's really addressed much of anything about her. Here's another happy story. This is from Rasmussen. And generally, I don't go by individual polls. I look for trends. When I'm a training officer in law enforcement, I look for a trainee to present trends to me. If I see one mistake, okay, I'll address that. But if I see a series of mistakes in a similar bent, then I know that that's an issue that I have to address in terms of training. One poll doesn't mean crap. A series of polls that tend to be an indicator to me, that is important. This is from Rasmussen. The 2022 midterm elections are now 263 days away, and Republicans have a 13-point lead in their bid to recapture control of Congress. Okay, except this isn't the first poll that I've seen like this.
Right.
The latest Rasmussen Reports national telephone and online survey finds that if the elections for Congress were held today, 50% of likely U.S. voters would vote for the Republican candidate. 50%. While 37% would vote for the Democrat. Just 4% would vote for somebody else, and another 9% are not sure. Here's the clue. Here's the indicator. Republicans have added 4 points to their congressional advantage since January, when they led 48% to 39%. To me, that's a happy story. This is also, now folks, remember I said earlier in last week or the week before, one of the shows, I said, I'm here to let you know the things that you're not supposed to see or hear from the American media maggots. I'm also here to tell you, and Lonnie and I both agree on the importance of this, don't fall into the ain't it awful, because there are a lot of good, positive things that are beginning to emerge now in 2022. We had the shit beat out of us in 2021. Definitely, our asses got set on fire in 2020, but the worm is starting to turn. Here's another indication. I would consider BLM to be one of the major racist organizations on the planet, along with the Democrat Party. This headline from, where did I find this? Zero Hedge. Oh, that's right. Zero Hedge, the place that all the leftists want to remove now because you're getting information like this that isn't heard and supported or even displayed by the American media maggots. This headline, Amazon removes BLM from...
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
Charity platform amid growing concerns over lack of financial transparency. That's a happy story. And then there's this. Biden, as far as I'm concerned, is doing his level best to make sure that we're somehow going to get involved in Ukraine. I'm like Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson will say some things I don't always agree with. That's okay. I'll still listen to him. One of the things he says, though, is that we shouldn't be going into Ukraine, and I would tend to agree with him. I've lost some friends who have said, I think we need to go into Ukraine. We need to support the Ukrainians against Putin. We all know what Putin is. You don't have to describe anything that Putin does or has done in the past to me. Putin. Whoa.
Both apply.
Almost said another wrong word. Putin is a former member of the KGB.
Yep.
Putin remembers when Russia was the USSR, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Putin, you cannot convince me otherwise, wants to get the band back together.
Yes.
And this is part and parcel of him attempting to do this. Mm-hmm. So you have to understand Putin. You have to understand history. You have to understand that people are saying that we're saving democracy in Europe. I'm not young. I've been around for 3 World's Fairs and a goat fuck. I remember Vietnam. I almost served in Vietnam. I told everybody that story before. We lost 58,000 troops in Vietnam because of the domino theory, courtesy of Kennedy and then supported by Lyndon Johnson. And what that meant was we needed to get involved in Vietnam because the communists were going to turn Vietnam, North Vietnam, South Vietnam, and take over Vietnam. So we had 58,000 soldiers perish. And guess what Vietnam is today? Hello. There is no North or South Vietnam. There is Vietnam, and it's called the Socialist Country of Vietnam. They are Marxists. Yep. They are Leninists. But we didn't learn anything from Vietnam. Is Ukraine a democracy, folks, or a republic? No, neither. The dude in Ukraine is a dictator, oh, you mean like Putin. So to my way of thinking, we don't need to be involved. Obama said that he would throw some supplies when this first was made under Obama, when he went into Crimea, and Putin also tippy-toed into Georgia as well. Here's an article from NPR. See, I have a memory. Dangerous. And I also have access to the internet when I can make that shit work. Because I am technologically challenged by being a techno-Luddite. Though a memory in concert with access to the internet dredges up this particular article from 2018 from NPR, of all places. Is Trump the toughest ever on Russia? This is from July 20th of 2018. This was heard on Morning Edition. President Trump is in the process of inviting Russian President Vladimir Putin to come to Washington, D.C. this fall to continue the talks they held in Helsinki earlier this week. It's another sign of Trump's efforts to build closer ties with Moscow, even though he insists his administration has taken a hard line against Russia. And everybody said, oh, no, Trump is Putin's poodle. Right? So what Trump said was, there's never been a president as tough on Russia as I have been. This is from NPR in 2018. That might sound like hyperbole, but in this case, there's actually some basis for the president's boast. A guy named Daniel Vajdish, senior fellow with the Atlantic Council, said, when you actually look at the substance of what this administration has done, not the rhetoric, but the substance, this administration has been much tougher on Russia than any in the post-Cold War era. People don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that at all. Now,
Putin knew he was dealing with a real man in dealing with Trump. If you use it as an example, where was it over in the Middle East where, because you've got the better memory than I have, when Trump had them drop that big bomb over there?
Oh, that was one of his first acts when he was dropping cruise missiles on Syria, because there were Russian advisors in Syria, and a couple of Russian advisors got turned to molecules.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, how do you deal with a strong man? From a position of strength. It's the only thing they respect. And so Putin knew that he was going to have to deal with a strong man who knew how to deal with strong men, because as my good friend Pastor M.L. Johnson out of the great state of Texas says that he calls Trump his blue-collar billionaire. If the man could be successful dealing with unions, the mafia, government hacks, and everything in between, and plus the competition for real estate development there in that city, that's a man with a backbone. And strong men respect, and what I mean by strong men, evil strong men, respect a strong man. Somebody with platitudes, or in Obama's famous, don't cross this red line.
Yeah. Right. Okay. All right. I wasn't that serious about that red line. Don't you dare cross this red line. Okay. Well, that red line didn't have the right color red, so don't you dare cross this new red line right here. I'm going to use some harsh sarcasm at you, okay? I'm going to waggle my finger at you, and I'm going to use harsh sarcasm. And I'm telling you, that's going to put you in your place. No, it won't.
Yeah. I'm stealing that. I want you to know that.
Thank you. Steal away. Here's another article that I found. Imagine that. This is back on July 11th of 2018. Trump lashes Germany over gas pipeline deal, calls Russia a captive. Calls it Russia's captive. U.S. President Donald Trump launched a sharp public attack on Germany on Wednesday for supporting a Baltic Sea gas pipeline deal with Russia, saying Berlin had become a captive to Russia, and he criticized it for failing to raise defense spending more. So would it shock everybody that I had an audio cut to play for you back from 2018? Listen to what Trump is saying. Was he not prescient? I would submit yes, he was. Does it not turn out that most, if not everything that Trump has said in the past, including being wiretapped, has turned out to be correct? So once I can get this little dweeb off of this cut that I found and get into the meat of Donald Trump, we're going to hear what Trump said to Germany in front of everyone. This was glorious.
Good evening, I'm Jeff Glor. We're going to begin tonight in Brussels, where President Trump and NATO allies came face to face, but did not see eye to eye. One photo today seemed to sum it up. Mr. Trump looking in one direction, many the other way. The president wants the allies to pay more for defense, saying the U.S. is carrying too much of the burden.
This has been going on for decades, and it's disproportionate and not fair to the taxpayers of the United States, and we're going to make it fair, so that'll be it.
NATO was formed in 1949 to defend Europe and North America against Soviet aggression. Mr. Trump said today that Germany in particular has gotten far too close with Russia. Major Garrett is in Brussels.
But Germany is totally controlled by Russia.
President Trump confirmed Europe's worst pre-summit fear.
Okay, now, folks, I'm paying this for a very salient reason that has now issued its little ugly head once again with Russia, Putin, and Germany.
Fears by using the NATO stage to criticize.
And it's called Nord Stream 2.
Allies blasting Germany over a natural gas pipeline deal with Russia.
It's very sad when Germany makes a massive oil and gas deal with Russia, where you're supposed to be guarding against Russia, and Germany goes out and pays billions and billions of dollars a year to Russia.
German officials deny that the controversial Nord Stream 2 pipeline will allow Russia to exert undue influence over their country. NATO Secretary General Jens.
Hey, it's Ryan Seacrest. Life comes at you fast, which is why it's important to find some time to relax. A little you time. Enter Chumba Casino. With no download required, you can jump on anytime, anywhere for the chance to redeem some serious prizes. So treat yourself with Chumba Casino and play over 100 online casino-style games, all for free. Go to ChumbaCasino.com to collect your free welcome bonus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
Stoltenberg tried to keep the peace.
We are stronger together than apart.
But how can you be together when a country is getting its energy from the person you want protection against?
You should look at Mike Pompeo, who is sitting to the left of Trump, and he's looking down at his dinner plate because you don't talk like this to globalists. You don't talk like this to other members of other countries, but he's talking about the truth.
Against or from the group that you want protection.
Because we understand that when we stand together, also when dealing with Russia, we are stronger.
Later, President Trump and German Chancellor Angela Merkel exchanged pleasantries for the cameras during a one-on-one meeting, but Merkel, who grew up in communist East Germany, told reporters earlier, "I've experienced myself how a part of Germany was controlled by the Soviet Union," and said her country today made independent policies and independent decisions. The NATO summit is usually a chance for member nations to reaffirm their commitment to an alliance that focuses on Afghanistan, Syria, Ukraine, and other world hotspots. But President Trump appeared determined to upset that tradition, demanding NATO countries spend 4% of their gross domestic product on defense.
Okay, stop right there. Folks, what you need to know is that NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, was started, as they indicated, back in 1948, post-World War II, because Russia had gone into Berlin and split Berlin into East and West Berlin and East and West Germany. Right. So the Russians decided that they were going to take a part of Germany, because if for no other reason than Germany has decided to make the wonderfully stupid idea of trying to invade Russia in the winter. Hello, not really very smart. So historically speaking, NATO was begun for that. What all the NATO-aligned countries, and there are 72 plus of them, are to do is to spend 2%, a minimum of 2% of their GDP consistently every year to fund NATO. Historically speaking, almost no one except the United States of America has kept up with that promise. So what Trump was saying is that the American taxpayer, historically, now, and in the future, will continue to fund NATO far beyond what they're required to do, and you assholes need to pony up, because what we're doing is we're paying to keep you safe from Russia.
Yes.
And if we're paying to keep you safe for Russia, and you're doing deals with Russia, then why, essentially, what he was saying, I would have said this out loud, is what's the need for NATO then? Why are we spending our American taxpayer money to you to make with Russia and Putin then and with Russia and Putin now? Yeah. So what is happening is that Nord Stream 2, the pipeline, is going from Russia and it's terminating in Germany. Well, know something about European politics, people. What that means is Europe, well, what this cut didn't say is that at that meeting, the conference, Trump offered to supply Germany and Europe with oil when we were strong and energy independent ourselves. We can send oil to you, and we can, at the time under Trump, our number one export wasn't oil. It was refined petroleum from the Chemical Coast around Houston.
Right.
That was our number one export. And Trump, knowing that, had made the offer to Germany and to Europe saying, why should you be beholden to Russia? We'll send you refined petroleum. If you need it, we can do it. And we could have back then. Now, in terms of Ukraine, Germany and the rest of NATO in Europe are not going to go against Putin, because now Putin has the spigot in his hand and can cut off Nord Stream 2 and can cut off the oil and the fuel, not oil, the fuel, the petroleum, right, to all of these states in Europe, mostly Germany. So do you not see, folks, how all of this dovetails together? They had the opportunity to not be beholden to Russia and have since chosen to embrace Russia. They're not drilling oil themselves. They're not making a national or even a unified tap into oil in their areas. They've decided the best, most continuous, most reliable thing to do, air quotes, is to be beholden to Russia. And do you think that Russia will ever let them off the hook after that?
Because of what you stated earlier, Putin still has an axe to grind based upon what happened from World War II going forward, and their fall from grace from being a superpower. And so, it's at the end of the day, this is playground stuff. Yeah, it's like I'm going to become friends with the bully.
It's like
hoping because he's nice to me today that he'll be nice to me tomorrow. If it's politically expedient for him to be nice to you today, but he's got a game plan. This reminds me of the China, because it's another area. I don't know if you have that in your notes going down that road, but I see the same thing with China. We invested $1 gazillion in China with moving our manufacturing over there. And China's always had an axe to grind with us. And I've said on my show, I said, China's not our friend.
Hardly.
Yeah, it's not our friend. I mean, if you look at the abuses they're doing to their own people, it's a communist regime. Communist regimes have never been our friends, any more than Cuba was our friend. It's a communist regime. I miss the rude or the mean tweets in the cheap gas. You know what I'm saying? Because the blue-collar billionaire can see foolishness and will call it out. He's not going to be nice about it. He's not going to be eloquent about it. He just calls it out because that's how he had to be successful in New York City. And here we have this. I'm so glad. And folks, this is one of the reasons why I hang around this guy is that he's got a tremendous amount of knowledge and he does the research. So usually on the show, just so you know, if you can't see in it, and eventually we'll have video, but I'm the one taking copious notes and go, I didn't think about that. I need to comment on that or do more research on that. But that's exactly it, BZ. That's exactly it.
Well, we made a major mistake, and one of the biggest mistakes, as you just now pointed out, Lonnie Poindexter, is that as Germany is beholden to Putin and Russia, so we are beholden to Xi Jinping and China, because we allowed, we pushed our major corporations over into China so that they could create thingies for American consumption back here. Then we find out after China unleashed a bioweapon on the planet, and you cannot convince me that China wasn't directly involved in this, either purposely or by massive negligence.
I'm over here doing my holiness church stuff.
Then what did we find out when what did we find out when Wuhan 19 first exploded in the United States? We found out who makes our breathers, who makes our PPE, who makes all of our a massive amount of our pills, who makes almost all of our antibiotics, who makes almost all of our medicine,
who makes the test strips to test to see if you have COVID. I went to order some, and they're on hold. We don't. The order is supposed to be in and didn't show in. And where is it? Where they're coming from? China.
Yeah. Well, it's probably on a boat, on a container ship 30 miles off the coast of Los Angeles and Long Beach Harbor, because Buttgig decided that to have them closer to shore where they're visible would be a bad reflection on the Biden regime. The things I could go into. I got about 12 minutes left. Lonnie Poindexter, can I corral you perhaps into some semblance of an agreement that you might return here Thursday because there's so many other things? See, did you notice that? You notice how sly I am?
You are sneaky.
That's right. That's so covert. That's so subtle. I'm Mr. Subtle over here because there's so many other things that I want to address.
As long as there's Dorito chips here, I'm here.
Cool. Okay. Next time. Note to BZ, next time, get a bigger bag. You know, I think we'll need a bigger boat. No, we'll need a bigger bag of Doritos. So, before...
How to have fun, anytime, anywhere. Step 1, go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2, collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3, play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4, unleash your excitement.
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
We go. Darn it. I didn't play the bottom of the hour break because I get into all this stuff, but I need everybody to know.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And so, Lonnie Poindexter, you have in your hot little hands one article that I wanted to read and then to have you weigh in on. If you have that over there, I'd like to read it, and then it dovetails in with something that occurred last year, an election in California with regard to Newsom and Larry Elder for the position of governor. So can I steal that article back from you? Thank you, sir. Okay, I told Lonnie that I wouldn't tell him about this, and then during the break I gave him the article. Okay, so I lied. Jesus, you guys. All right, this is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 pages of an article. Now, this is a local article from Tennessee. This article came out February 16th this year, not long ago, and this is from the Tennessee Tribune, and it's from an author called Rosetta Miller Perry. So it's local. She's a local Tennessee Tribune author, and you'll understand the locality of it when you hear it. But the editorial, and this is what she has written, editorial, nothing worse than blacks who collaborate in black oppression. My, that's a rather, God, I almost said jaundiced. That's a rather challenging headline, shall we say. And she starts this way. Throughout the history of oppressed people in America, and particularly blacks, there's always been those within our population who cooperate and assist the evil forces of systemic racism. Stop. I've asked you this before, but I'm going to ask you this again. Lonnie Poindexter, is there systemic racism in the United States of America, in your opinion?
No.
Okay.
There are racist people in America, but that's human nature. There's good people and bad people. And I catch a lot of heat for saying this. Now, the caveat to that is there is an argument for systemic racism in America as it relates to this great big stinky elephant that wears high heels and a pink muumuu, and that elephant is abortion, and how it specifically targeted the black community so that it halved our population. So on that front, I said, yeah. But in this nation, I say this all the time, that life ain't fair, but God is just, and he's the final arbiter in the affairs of man. So there are racist people. You can find racist pockets. But if a man who professes to be, or to say he's black, can be elected president not once, but twice by the preponderance of the population, who is not black, by the way, since black folk are only 13% of the population, as the crow flies. I think, did I nail it down there for you?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I'll continue with the article, but I wanted to get Lonnie's weigh in on that. Every slave revolt that failed, whether it was Gabriel Prosser, Denmark Vesey, or Nat Turner, was unexecuted in large part because there were slave snitchers informing their masters about the plan. So, fast forward centuries to the present, we still have collaborators who hate being black so much as they are willing to help undermine others while serving as apologists and mouthpieces for white injustice.
I got to chime in here.
Please.
I'll make it quick,
please,
because I know we're going to be wrapping up the show.
I'm going to go through the whole article, whatever it takes.
I'll give you one name, Robert Smalls. See, this individual, they're great for pushing this narrative that there's Uncle Toms and so forth, ratted out those who were trying to free themselves and what have you. And it's, yeah, people, there are good people, bad people within the black community, within the slave community, within the slave owner community. They're good and bad people. Robert Smalls, and I just did this piece for, the organization I'm working with, Every Black Life Matters, for Black History Month, where I talked about Robert Smalls, who had the wherewithal to think he could and stole a heavily armed Confederate ship. And he, along with, I believe it's 11 crew members who were black slaves, commandeered that ship and sailed that ship out of Sumter, Fort Sumter, and gave it over to the hands of the Union Army, of the Union. That's also what existed back in those days. So for her to purport that I hate this thing, that we're just so beaten down, and then there's those that turn on us who look like us. Over 100 years ago, Booker T. Washington said something to this effect. He said, and I can't quote it, but I'll give you the gist of what he said. He said, there are a class of people that exist solely to continue stir up the grievances of a people, because that's how they get paid and get compensated. So he was talking about the Jesse Jacksons and the Al Sharptons and and the new crew that's up now, Joy Reid and the rest of them. He talked about those type individuals over 100 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. Over 100 years ago. So this individual that wrote this article is no different than what Booker T. Washington was talking about.
And it's funny you should mention that, because I have fingers and a keyboard, and I went to the internet and I found that quote. Here it is from Booker T. Washington. There is another class of colored people who make a business of keeping the troubles, the wrongs, and the hardships of the Negro race before the public. And, of course, I was blocked by an ad. So let me continue. Having learned that they are able to make a living out of their troubles and have grown into the settled habit of advertising their wrongs, partly because they want sympathy and partly because it pays. Some of these people do not want the Negro to lose his grievances because they do not want to lose their jobs. Where is it?
Over 100 years ago, he said this, folks.
Those people, George Santayana, who fail to understand and learn from history are doomed to repeat it. We learn nothing from history. I call this historical Alzheimer's, and sometimes, many times, it is purposeful. And I lay this squarely at the feet, mostly, of the Democrat Party.
They show up, buck dancing and all. Election season.
Oh, I think that phrase and word is in here a little bit later on. Lonnie Poindexter. So I continue with the article by Miller Perry, editorial, Nothing Worse Than Blacks Who Collaborate in Black Oppression. The most recent collaborator is Kenny Collins, the police chief of Brookhaven, Mississippi. While his skin color is true black, Collins' heart and sympathies are with the system, true white. He told the world that Brookhaven doesn't have any race problems. To make matters worse, he stated this right after a horrible incident January 24th involving DeMontario Gibson, a black 24-year-old FedEx driver. Gibson was simply doing his job, delivering packages on his route, when self-styled white racist vigilantes Gregory Case and Brandon Case, father and son, got in their vehicle and chased him for several miles while shooting at him. If this reads like a rerun of what happened to Ahmaud Arbery, it was, except fortunately this time Gibson wasn't killed. Collins' police force allowed Gregory Case and Brandon Case to walk into the Brookhaven Police Department with their attorney 8 days later and turn themselves in. Thankfully, the father was charged with conspiracy with a bond set at $75,000, while his son was charged with aggravated assault and a bond of $150,000. Now, you see what she's trying to do? She's trying to make this somewhat local. Although exactly quite local, it truly isn't, because that's Tennessee. But Gibson's family and team of attorneys are fighting for an upgrade of charges to a hate crime and attempted murder, which it was. Lonnie Poindexter, you said there are racists racist things occur. I don't know. Well, let me ask you point blank, because I don't. Do you know, or have you heard anything about this particular incident? Mm-hmm. Because I have not. Are you fairly aware? Do you kind of know the fact pattern?
Looking for excitement? Chumba Casino is here. Play anytime, play anywhere. Play on the train, play at the store, play at home, play when you're bored. Play today for your chance to win and get daily bonuses when you log in. So what are you waiting for? Don't delay. Chumba Casino is free to play.
Experience social gameplay like never before. Go to Chumba Casino right now to play hundreds of games, including online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Live the Chumba life at ChumbaCasino.com.
VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Can you tell us? Because I'm not aware.
I'm aware of it, but not specifics as to it. It was something that blurbed up somebody sent over to me, so I just know the incident as it happened, but I can't give you specifics.
Okay. I'm going to continue with the article. It says, Gibson's family and team of attorneys are fighting for an upgrade of charges to a hate crime and attempted murder, which it was. This isn't the first racially charged incident to occur in Brookhaven. Back in 2020, 23-year-old Vivian Haythorne, 37 weeks pregnant at the time, went into early labor after an incident with a white Brookhaven police officer. Officer Lisa Jackson responded to a call from Haythorne, who reported a traffic emergency. Her vehicle's accelerator became stuck at approximately 90 miles an hour. Okay, that's a story. When Officer Jackson arrived at the scene, she drew her gun, pulled Haythorne from her vehicle, pushed her onto the ground, stomach down, and handcuffed her. Black Chief Collins supported white Officer Jackson, who faced no disciplinary action and still remains on the police force. So what we have here is an unfortunate familiar sight, a gutless, cowardly collaborator happy to participate in the continuing oppression of his own people. According to Collins, there's no racism in Brookhaven and no problems in his department. If there was a lynching, Collins would probably still claim there was no problem in lynching and lynching was real. Mississippi whites put another black collaborator in power, and they may rest easy now knowing absolutely nothing will be done to stop acts of violence against black citizens, regardless of how egregious they are, because they have this black man in charge in Brookhaven. But wait, there's more. Kenny Collins is far from the only collaborator happy to keep a racist system operating with impunity. There's South Carolina Senator Tim Scott.
Here we go.
Now everyone knows who Tim Scott is. Now this becomes interesting. Tim Scott, he calls himself a black senator, but actually he's only another Trump black lapdog. I see. In the last year, he has helped scuttle the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act in the Senate after it passed the House, and voted with Republicans as they kept the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act from even coming up for a vote. Oh, I have much to say about that. That's for another day. Scott claimed to understand the history of racist police mistreatment of blacks and the ugliness of Jim Crow, but he's just another spineless black collaborator. That's also the case with black clowns like Candace Owens and Larry Elder, so-called conservatives who do nothing except spew out hate-filled messages that denigrate and demean blacks and poor people.
I know Tim Scott. I had the honor and pleasure of meeting him during my time in Washington, D.C., BC. He's not a shrinking violet. Nor is he a pawn. And if this individual, if she actually knew his history, where he talks about being on the negative end of dealing with racist police coming from North Carolina. So for her to say the things that she says, it just, see, she's paid and compensated by that juggernaut that continually perpetuates this false narrative. She herself is guilty of the thing that she's accusing them of. To accuse Tim Scott. Tim Scott has crossed swords with President Trump. And I don't mean that in a friendly manner. They have crossed swords where they have disagreed. And Tim Scott has chastised Donald Trump. See, she doesn't know her history, but then she doesn't have to because she's perpetuating a narrative, a false narrative. This is absolutely ridiculous. I had the good pleasure of meeting Candace Owens. The only thing Candace is guilty of, she's young. So she says things sometimes I wish she wouldn't. But Tim Scott's an honorable man who is probably older than this individual here that wrote this article and has experienced real bigotry and racism, but takes the stand that he takes based upon truth. It pays to be on the victim's parade, my brother. It pays. And it pays well. I was told one time, how much money do they pay you, Lonnie Poindexter, to sell out your people running with those Republicans? And I just laugh as I break open another can of chicken soup.
And unlike Ken McClellan, you're not driving the newest Rolls-Royce Phantom either.
Oh, thank you. You pay a price to stand the way we stand, those of us who have the darker paint job. I mean, all of us that are conservative pay a price, but we pay a price. And so this individual here, she went to Propaganda R Us. She might as well be writing for Pravda, the equivalent of Pravda, which she's putting forth.
What you said is true because she's paid, she's funded to write this. Otherwise, why would she write it if there's no fiscal incentive behind it? Well, clearly there is, hence we have this.
She gets, what ends up happening, let me delve into that just a little bit. What happens is she writes this piece, she gets attaboys from those higher up the food chain, and then she gets selected to write other articles for other publications and so forth. They take care of their own. The left-leaners, they really, I wish conservatives did more of that, quite frankly. They take care of their own. So she's compensated for pushing this dribble forward, and she's ignorant. Either she's ignorant or she's just stupid, and maybe a little bit of both. But you hear this all the time. This is, oh man, you see me, my body language change. I want to throw something, and but this is what takes place.
But this is the standard level of rhetoric that you see on the left these days. This passes now for normal.
Yes, the police chief that she's speaking of, she didn't know his history. That black police chief who took a stand and said, hey, it's not in my town. He runs a tight ship. That's what he's saying. But, oh, no, he's an Uncle Tom.
Well, the other question is, did she speak to him? Is there a comment in here from him? Did she consult with him? Did she decide that, when I'm going to accuse these people, the least that I could do is perhaps get a quote from that police chief, perhaps get some kind of a quote from either Larry Elder or Tim Scott or Candace Owens. That is not to be considered. Oh, she had a word limit that day for her editorial, so because of that, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, 30 at the bottom, submitted to the editor, stamp it, boom. Okay, that's going out on tomorrow's paper at the Tennessee Tribune. I'm going to continue. That's also the case with black clowns like Candace Owens and Larry Elder, so-called conservatives who do nothing but spew out hate-filled messages that denigrate and demean blacks and poor people. Then I continue. Candace has been condemned online and accused of verbal gymnastics. Verbal gymnastics. Okay, stop. Has anybody ever seen, and if I was smart and had a producer, which I don't, I would be playing right now, the tete-a-tete that she had between the Senate Select Hearing Committee, between herself and Gerald Nasler.
Your memory's better
Why
than mine.
can't I think of that guy's name? Anyway, basically, she pulled out her extremely sharp cutlass and sliced him into little bologna pieces. And that is considered to be verbal gymnastics. Lonnie, have you ever come across people who can think on their feet just rapidly?
Yeah, and I wish I was one of them.
I wish I was too. I am not, but it appears to me we had one who represented our association for the Sheriff's Department named Wendell Phillips, who was named after a union organizer and hence became big involved in the union. Dude could think on his feet like nobody's business. And I submit that goes with also Candace Owens, who can think on her feet very rapidly. And it also goes to another judge. I may have told everybody about this maybe a couple of years ago. He's retired now, named Gary Ransom, who was in Sacramento in the Superior Court. I'll tell everybody a series of Ransom stories, perhaps a little bit later for another show. I have never seen people think on their feet like these folks. So we all know people like that. Is there anybody that...
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Has been in your sphere of influence, Lonnie Poindexter, who you can point to and go, I wish I was that person. Oh my God, if I could think like that.
Several people. Pastor Mark Little, Star Parker, and Candace is just a younger version of Star. And there's several others that can do that. It's a gift, you know.
It is a gift.
All the data's, like with you and I, the data's here, but I need time to reflect before I can pull the data up and turn it into something that I can articulate in a way that people will understand what I'm trying to convey. Those individuals can tabulate, park several thoughts in the ether and then pull them down and use them. I'm not that guy.
Oh, yeah. You can see in some people, depending upon the videos that you watch, you can see that not only are they processing the questions posed to them, but they're thinking 2 or 3 arguments down the line because they anticipate what the next question will be, what the next series of questions will be, and they're already thinking of answers based in logic and facts to throw back at the inquisitor therein. I know folks like that. And so all of that ability is wrapped up here in this little chick from the Tennessee Tribune calling that verbal gymnastics, meaning, okay, I submit Candace Owens is fucking whip smart.
She is hella smart to be as young as she is. And this individual talking about gymnastics just basically means she didn't understand even what the hell Candace was saying as she chopped up.
That I would submit that's completely applicable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Candace has been condemned online and accused of verbal gymnastics after she alleged that Black Americans were the country's most murderous group, a comment that is so racist, not even Klansmen and Nazis would say it publicly. Unfortunately, Owens is in our midst, dispensing her moronic garbage through Ben Shapiro's organization, The Daily Wire. Of course, you know that Ben Shapiro is the front man. Tucker Carlson is also involved in that and has been funding it. But Ben Shapiro is going to take the heat for that, apparently.
Another one who can think on their feet, Ben Shapiro.
Oh, if you ever I have to be upfront, there have been some issues in the past that Ben Shapiro and I disagree on significantly. But I do not doubt that this guy can't think on his feet. He is also one of those stellar individuals whose brain synapses are firing at 2 to 3 times the speed of mine, easily, given. I'll be the first to admit. The article continues, they've relocated and set up shop in Nashville. Okay, now we come back to Tennessee. Content to dispense. Now what she's saying is that Daily Wire has come to Tennessee. Now it's in her backyard. NIMBY. They've relocated and set up shop in Nashville, content to dispense 24/7 hate speech and Trump worship. If you read Ben Shapiro, you'd understand Ben Shapiro does not worship at the altar of OMB.
Right.
And I'm not sure that I can say Candace Owens does that either. Elder's garbage is thankfully mostly confined to the West Coast, where he thought white folks loved him so much that he would become governor, and thanks to God. Very interesting. Why is God in there? my guess is religion has very little to do in her life, but she wrote it anyway. Thanks to God, he lost and found out that conservatives didn't like his blackness either. Okay. Maybe you have something to say. My first thoughts on that were Elder came in late in the race. Yeah. Very late. He did not make the decision up front to go ahead and throw his hat in the ring early and get anything even remotely resembling any kind of a war chest. Mm-hmm. Plus, it should not surprise you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, that California, always spell it with a K, is predominantly, I don't know, I'd say 80% leftist, except in some of the more rural countries, and they don't have the population to pull the votes.
That's exactly it. And he came in late, and then he had the other issue he had was there were those within the Christian conservative community that had some, well, let me just cut to the chase. They had issues with him because he had a live-in girlfriend. Because I was the one, along with many of my counterparts, out there beating the drum for him. And I had to talk to these individuals because I'm connected to the pastoral community nationally, and getting them to understand, well, this is look, Donald Trump was a mean tweeter. Donald Trump, I would say, was not the most Christian-like in the individual in terms of some of the things that he said. He was a blue-collar guy from New York.
He's a brawler from New York.
Exactly. So
simple.
But he knew how to fight. And so what my good friend Rob Chittum's used to say is the problem with the Christian community is they've forgotten how to fight. And last time I checked, there might be rules in boxing.
Oh.
Okay. About no below the belt. But in real life, everything's fair game. You fight to win.
Oh.
And then you can establish rules of etiquette and so forth. So it's anyway, Larry Elder is a stand-up guy. Who was it? Because it was Ronald Reagan. It was his famous quote, the 80-20 quote. The one that if 80% of the time the people that we're in agreement, and the 20% of the time we're in disagreement, they're still my brethren. It's a beautiful quote from Ronald Reagan that speaks to that. And you got to understand, within the political environment, you're not going to agree on everything, but you have to understand who your enemies are, I guess is my point. And I learned that when I got to Washington, that on the core issues, if we're in agreement, I can roll with you. But if you got individual things you disagree with, as long as they're not deal breakers for you, we can roll together, because our enemy, and this was pointed out, and I shared this story with you before, and I'll say it. I won't name names because I don't want to out him, but there's a gentleman I met in Washington, D.C., who is a part of one of the most conservative newspapers in Washington, D.C. That conservative newspaper was founded by Reverend Sung Myung Moon.
Oh, was he not the individual that bought an assload of land in Oregon and was known to have 50 Rolls Royces?
No, I don't believe
Or am I
that.
thinking of somebody else?
That's somebody else.
Okay.
You're thinking of the Maharaja.
Okay, folks, what I just said, just rewind the tape. Rewind the tape. Don't even listen to it. Lonnie, please tell me some truth.
So I want to share this. And like I said, I won't name him, but the newspaper, I'll name the newspaper, Washington Times.
Okay.
Washington Times is very conservative. Very conservative. You can sit and talk with them and we'd be marching down. But if you look at who owns them, which is the Unification Church, the Unification Church is conservative in their worldview. But I would consider them fringe Christianity, not in a truly negative sense, but they're on because you got your mainline denominations, and then out there on that edge, you have other denominations that are Christian and generally roll the way we roll, but their theology is interesting. Okay? So the Times reached out to me and were asking me about collaboration with other organizations I was working with. And so I explained, I says, well, look, I said, the Christian folk I roll with take issue with some of your doctrine. Love the newspaper and what you put forth, but your doctrine. So if we align based upon theological views, that's a disconnect, and I can't get these folks to roll with you. But if we align according to the core values, conservative values, traditional marriage, Second Amendment, all these things that we stand for, I said, we can roll together. And so I said, so I don't want you to get frustrated. I just want to let you know. Here's what he said to me, and I probably should just cut to the chase. He said, Lonnie, I understand. I've been dealing with this since college, because he's been a Mooney since college, and he's my age.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
He said, but here's the deal. He says, I want the Christian organizations that you work and deal with to understand this. We can disagree based upon doctrine, but if we don't unify at some point in pushing back on who our true enemies are, he said, we'll all be sitting in the same jail cell arguing church doctrine.
Well, that's absolutely correct.
Bro, it made me sit back and, I had one of my aha moments. I said, that's it. We don't understand our true enemies. So the issues that maybe some folks might have had with Larry Elder because he had a living girlfriend, I didn't plan on going down this road, but I'm going down it. And issues with others that we can stand together and unify based on understanding who our true enemies are. Christian community and the Jewish community. Christians don't like Jews. That's the general thought. I don't think it's true. It's the general thought.
I don't think it's true either.
Jews don't like Christians because they don't acknowledge Jesus. But let me tell you something. I got some Jewish friends that would go into battle with me based upon what you and I believe in, and they'd watch our flank. They'd be right there with us, shoulder to shoulder, in battle. I'm saying this, or maybe there's somebody out there that needs to hear this. We need to understand that what our true enemies are and what their plan is. What I love about you, brother, is you lay that out so eloquently. And you lay it out in a way that even basic folks can understand it. You have the knowledge base, and you know where all the bodies are buried, and you speak to that. If we don't unify as common sense America, they will drive us into jail cells or worse, because we know what happened in Germany. We know what happened in Venezuela. We know what happened in Cuba. We know what happened in Vietnam. We know what happened in Russia and others where there is this communist doctrine which leads to a totalitarian regime. And we'll all be sitting in jail cells, or we'll all be dead. That's how serious this thing is.
Well, it's arranging the deck chairs on the deck of the Titanic and arguing about their placement as the entire ship sinks bow first.
Yes.
And Captain White is on the bridge, standing there gloriously, wearing a hat and just watching as the freezing cold waters rise around him, and then he dies. I found the quote that you're talking about, and this is interesting. I find myself a devotee of Ronald Reagan quotes, but I was not aware of this one. Yeah. And this is the quote, folks, from Ronald Reagan. The person who agrees with you 80% of the time is a friend and an ally, not a 20% traitor.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Nails it. Because I got to tell you, folks, the only person who would have a perfect voting record and who is the ideal candidate, frankly, is me. Because I vote with me and I think like me all the time, and I would be the only person who would think just like I need everyone else to think. So I have only a couple of paragraphs left. Then I want to play something to cap the show. These are the final paragraphs. However, these two and others like Jesse Lee Peterson. Okay, are you familiar with Jesse Lee Peterson? I am not. Who is Jesse Lee Peterson?
California-based conservative, calls it just like it is.
Okay.
If folks think that Larry Elder is a straight shooter, and they really hate Jesse Lee Peterson.
Okay, I'll have to look into him. However, these two and others like Jesse Lee Peterson and the black female minstrel, she calls them the minstrel duo of Diamond and Silk, have no power, influence, or respect from any race. That is just patently fucking false. They only have access through right-wing media. But people like, and this is how she calls him, people like Black Tim Scott are truly dangerous because he is part of the system which actively help continuing running roughshod over blacks and other people of color. The Tennessee Tribune will continue to identify these collaborators and let folks know what they're doing. Wait until I get to the last sentence in this story, Lonnie Poindexter. The Tennessee Tribune will continue to identify these collaborators and let folks know what they're doing. No one should be fooled when they claim to care about black empowerment and advancement. Their true interest is keeping in good standing with whites as they fatten their bank accounts by spewing hate about their black brothers and sisters, even though they came out of the womb of a very black mother. This chick actually wrote this. So if they hate blacks, they hate and disrespect their mammies. Folks?
Everything that she's accusing them of is exactly what she's doing. She's, I'm sure, already received a fat check for writing that, or she's up for a promotion.
Oh, I'm sure in some portion of her local community, or maybe even farther than that, if she hasn't already, she will be feted for writing this article.
That's how it works. That's how it works.
This will be something from which she will gain certificates, acknowledgement, accolades, etc., which may in turn result in greater cash.
Charlotte Berkman is in that part of Tennessee, right? And
yes,
Charlotte would, I'm sure, beg to differ. What she has to say. There's another individual I'm thinking from, brilliant woman, former professor at Vanderbilt University, who ran for mayor there in it's either Nashville or Memphis. She's a parrot upon for their agenda. These two women who both came that I just mentioned, their other name will come to me, very humble beginnings, and became successful in their own right because they believe the American dream, the American ideal. But you always have individuals like this woman who I had never heard of, and maybe she has some notoriety in her community, but she's bucking for a promotion and what have you. These other two women that I know of, I'm going to make sure that they know about this article so they can chop her up the way that Candace Owens chops them up in D.C. It's
I myself, and everyone knows the content of my background and my melanin count. I haven't read a more recent, a greater racist article recently that I can think of.
Well, who else wrote stuff like this? See, they spool these people up. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was one of my heroes, when I was a kid, basketball player. I became a fan when he was using the name his mama and daddy gave him, Lou Alcindor.
Right.
I have an autograph of his original name. My mother got it for me because she was teaching education, and he was going to UCLA and was taking some classes. You didn't hear jack from Kareem about anything until the Barack Obama then the Donald Trump things pull up, and they need to get some heavyweights that had notoriety in the black, or America in general, but specifically the black community. So they stirred him up. And this is the kind of crap he wrote. So it was still my hero from a basketball standpoint, but like most athletes, I wish they would just shut up and play ball. We have to push back on this because there's a number of people that'll be led astray based upon this foolishness. I'm so glad you brought this up. I was not aware of the details of all of this, but I will definitely be getting this article over to Charlotte Berkman. She's a congressional candidate in Tennessee, and a brilliant woman, and the professor from Vanderbilt, whose name escapes me, as well, who has been on Fox and some of the others. Nobody gets rich if you happen to be black and you happen to be in conservative media. You know, conservative media is about pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. You know, I made assumptions in D.C. that those within with a conservative worldview would understand how the manipulation of media from a standpoint of how to get branding and so forth. I was amazed at how they don't get that. The left does that really, really well.
Oh, if there's one thing that you have to talk about the left in terms of their unity, their cohesion, they have an ability to unify like few others.
Yes.
They will circle the wagons with the best. And that has historically been true. It's true now. I see a rift. And it may be true in the future. But that will all depend, folks, on November. And that's where you come in. That's where the voters come in. That's where the listeners to this show and to Lonnie's show come in. That's where God, what's that line from Star Wars? Don't get cocky, kid. Now is not the time to get cocky. Conservatives of every stripe couldn't care less what your melanin count is. But there is even, I've played this before, trust me, I will continue to play it because I need to be reminded of it. There is a bigger, larger, more overarching sense or reason for all of these things. I've played it before, and I will play it again because, in my estimation, it's just not left or right. It's not both sides, either side of the aisle. It's not D.C., it's not Los Angeles. It gets down to this. You've heard it before. Jason Whitlock, take it away.
I've always wondered this. Like, what is the actual support for the ideas? Not, do you like Trump or Biden? But, for example, do you think men can get pregnant? Or do you think some races are morally superior to other races? Like, the core idea is the Democratic Party. How many Americans actually believe that stuff, would you guess?
I don't think 5% of America believes it, maybe 10%. I don't know. Tucker, I'm going to say something that's difficult to unpack in this short amount of time, but it's what I truly believe. I think a lot of what the left supports is satanic. I'm just sorry. It's in direct objection to God and in direct objection to the Judeo-Christian values that were at the foundation of this country, and those Christian values are why we made so much progress in terms of freedom and humanity and the way we treat everybody. Yes, it was hard, but our Christian values compelled us to sacrifice our lives for the freedoms of other Americans, of slaves. And through the civil rights movement, our Christian values compelled us to take risks and fight for equality and the equality of opportunity for everybody. I see a lot of what's going on here and I'm just sorry, I'm a man of faith. I was raised in the church. This stuff is satanic. That's what's at the foundation of a lot of this stuff.
Well, I'm a pretty mild Protestant personally, but I completely agree with you, especially the gender stuff. When you say you can change your own gender by wishing it, you're saying you're God. And that is satanic. I completely agree.
Hit the nail on the head. And let me just chime in while I remember. Carol Miller Swain, Dr. Carol Miller Swain.
I remember her name.
I'm going to get this.
Frontline Doctors?
I no, she's not a frontline doctor. She was the
where have I heard her
professor
name
of government. She ran for, I believe, for governor, but she ran for mayor of, I believe, it was either Nashville or Memphis.
Okay,
but she was the professor at Vanderbilt University, head of government there, and a staunch conservative woman who was raised up in a broken household, abject poverty. I mean, just, supposed to be a statistic, yet she saw herself as a victor instead of a victim and went on to become very successful. And I know she's got a ton of degrees. And, man, she'd be great to get her on your show. I'm going to work on that, too.
Oh, there are so many people that I would love to have the show when I rebuild the studio. Because literally, as I indicated, my last day here in California, we got to be out of this house by the 29th. We're physically going to be moving on March 25th, a Friday. And then once I move to my free state, then I'm going to have to rebuild this studio from scratch, from the bottom up, in a brand new house. It's going to have its very own little dedicated room, dedicated studio, dedicated soundproofing, yada, yada, yada.
Let me just point out, folks, that when I came back to California and I had a chance to go on air with BZ, it was in their the studio that they had here in Sacramento. It was a beautiful place. I mean, it was laid out.
It was big.
Fully decked out, a lounge area, the whole 9 yards, and it was a lot of fun. It was definitely, you called it the Saloon, but it was really, really nicely the way it was done. And you'll duplicate that and then some. Like I've been telling you, bigger and greater things are in store for you, my friend.
Well, thank you ever so kindly. It appears that at first blush, I may have a commitment from you to be back here Thursday. And the reason I say that is because look at this pile of stuff right here.
Yep.
Look at this pile of stuff right over here. You can't see what's in front of me with all these stories that I haven't even gotten into. Here's a pile of stuff over here, of stories that I didn't even get to, that I didn't even address. So this is stuff that I'd like to even talk about on Thursday. And even on Thursday, we may not get through all of the stack of stuff. I'm sorry, I'm ripping off Rush Limbaugh. But I do have, in fact, a stack of stuff here to talk about, because with Lonnie Poindexter, I have to say that you bring out in me the things that I always want to do in radio, because I don't think I have had the ability to riff off of somebody live, one-on-one, like you and I riff off each other. And I think you make me a better radio host, if I may throw that in there and be so loose, but also a better guy as well. We'll talk about that, a whole bunch of stuff later. In any event, we've gone 34 minutes past what I envisioned doing for 2 hours. So we've been here for 2 hours and 34 minutes with myself and Lonnie Poindexter. We'll be back Thursday, fingers crossed, and discuss some of the other things. And even, oh my God, even between now, Tuesday. Well, no, it's not Tuesday anymore. No, it is Tuesday. It's still Tuesday here on the left coast. Between Tuesday and next Thursday, 2 days away from now, who knows what kind of stupid crap could pop off between now and then. It could be anything. And with that, I just like this. I like this series of cuts, and so I have to say this.
Monsieur has been locked!
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter in about 2 hours at bzep, at bzep, or on my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. My original music is by Possessed Tranquility. You can find them at ReverbNation.com. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Company and the Skunk Works and the Boeing Company. If it ain't going, I ain't Boeing.
So will you please
Tiaras are by My Little Pony.
that I know.
Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I will be consorting in about 45 minutes.
Happy to know
So thanks again to Lonnie Poindexter for being here. Thanks to everybody for listening live or perchance being in the chat room, one each. And thanks for listening in podcast, which is where I get a ton of my people listening, including American truckers. God bless the American trucker. God bless the Canadian trucker. God bless you all for working, having a job, and embracing freedom. God bless everybody. Take care. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night.
Good night, Jim Bob. Go to sleep.
Good night, and good luck.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.